the Badass Birth podcast with me, your host, Jen Muir, and I am so excited. Today we're chatting to AJ Silver, and I cannot wait for you to hear it. So, as I said, today we are chatting to the powerhouse that is AJ Silver. Now, if you're not familiar with AJ's work, do not worry. They are going to chat you through it, and you will see below all of the links and relevant stuff that you need that we chat about over the course of this episode. But before we get into it, I just want to take a quick moment to thank you so much for listening. Seriously, this is new for me, and it very much feels like my little baby. So for every single person who is taking the time out of their day or looking forward to listening to this podcast, I cannot tell you how buzzed off my tits I am at the fact that you're here. That probably leads me quite nicely into the disclaimer that this episode does contain flowery language that may not be suitable for all listeners. So if you're with the kids, you might want to just hang off a little while yet. But it's a good one, and please give it a listen. Before you do that, can you take the time to subscribe to the podcast and leave a rating for us as well? We're on Spotify and we are on iTunes. Whichever one works for you, you go ahead. I don't really care. I care that you're here. I'll also, before we get into the interview, I just want to mention the fact that AJ and we're going to be using terminology that you may or may not already be aware of. My suggestion to you is either get a notepad and a pen handy so that you can note down anything that you're not familiar with and do a wee Google later. Google is your friend. Or get Google open just now and just learn as you go. It's I'm hoping that you're going to take a lot from this one. And if you are pregnant yourself and you are LGBTQIA+, then this is for you. It is in your honour. We love you. We think you're amazing. We also use the word queer, and we reserve the right to do so because we are big queer birth workers. So just to make you aware of that, again, knowledge is power. Go away and do your learning. And I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to let you get into it. Please enjoy. Get sharing this on Instagram. If you're listening to this and you think people you know may find it helpful, then by all means screenshot it, share it, tag me, tag AJ, do your thing and enjoy, and thank you. Hi AJ, welcome.
Hiya.
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, I'm good. I'm excited. I'm so pleased that you've agreed to be on the show.
Thank you. Sorry, I was drinking coffee. Thank you for inviting me.
I was like, okay, you're clearly not as excited as I am. But
No, I am excited. I'm excited that you've finally done this. It's been a long time coming. It needs to be made. I'm so excited that you're doing it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, me and you just talking about birth, it's a match made in heaven, let's be honest.
Yeah, we have to try and maybe be a little bit more professional than our usual conversations. This is the difficulty and the joy of working with friends. You know, we have to remember that not everybody knows us.
Yeah, and this isn't our usual WhatsApp voice message chat. So yeah, we'll keep it as clean as possible. This might be one of those. This might need to be one of those episodes where I tick the little profanities box, but I've been excited to do that anyway, so it's all good.
Yeah, I think definitely just tick it, and then we can get on with life.
Right. So, for the benefit of our lovely listeners, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself? You know, how you got into this work, where you're based, etc., etc. Go.
So I'm in Essex, and I cover a bit of Kent, a bit of Hertfordshire, and a bit of London, sort of the southeast England, London commuter belt kind of area of east of the southeast. I will go a little bit further if necessary, but that's generally my kind of area. I am a abuela doula and a red tent doula. I am a trainee BFC, a breastfeeding counsellor with ABM, the Association of Breastfeeding Mothers. I'm just over halfway done, and that's like a 2-year course. So getting there with that. The way I got into the sort of birth and baby world was my eldest has just turned 7, and they were very, spirited, and I needed a way of containing them, and slings were a great option, and so that's how I got into the sort of birth, baby, breast, chest feeding world, was through going to sling meets. Then I decided to train as a breastfeeding counsellor. I trained back in very early 2015 with the School of Baby Wearing. I ran a sling library and had a business as a sling consultant for nearly over 4 years in the end, until I found doulahood through having a doula with my second child, who is 4.5. And I thought, I need a bit of that. And so I trained with Red Tent, and then I practiced for quite a while under Red Tent, and then through sort of going to events and further learning, I found Mars and Abuela doulas. And again, I needed some of that, so I went and trained again with Abuela doulas. And Mars and yourself, Jen, through doing your mentoring sort of process, it helped me zero in on what my USP, what my unique selling point of me as a not necessarily as a doula, but as a person in this industry, which is the fact that I'm queer, I'm non-binary, I'm pansexual, and the fact that there is such a vast lack of our voices as parents in the world and as professionals. And so that really helped me realize that this is something that I need to be a part of, in making sure that people who want to be further inclusive and further competent of all who birth and want to feed or carry or hypnobirth their babies are able to do so.
Yeah. So I obviously want to really, really get into that with you, but I've got one before we move into the whole world of queer birth and how many waves you're making there. But specifically, when you obviously had a doula for the birth of your second kid, and what was it about it that made you go, I want to do that, I'm into it, I'm feeling it? So tell me a wee bit more about that.
It was the contrast between my first and second births. The fact that the first birth, I'm also fat. So I was obviously told, you can't have birth in the water, you can't go to the birthing unit, you can't have a home birth, you can't do all these things. And I was very young. I was 20, 23, 24. And obviously I had no experience in that world, in that, I'd never heard of positive birth movement or anything like that at that point, or I only went to the NHS, preparation classes, whatever they call them, and so didn't know that I could say, nah. I had no idea that I could say, actually, well, this is what I'm doing. And so my doula, when I hired her, every time I would say, oh yeah, but I'm probably not going to be able to do that, she would just go, why? And it was such a simple thing that she could do. So I knew I had to be that person for somebody else, because then I had my home water birth, unassisted, no drugs, no one touched me, no one touched my daughter, and it was very important for me that I felt in control. Having the first birth, as I was induced, I was on my back, I never left the bed. I was coached to push, I tore, I had a PPH, postpartum hemorrhage, because of all that thing. And I did feel violated and silenced and physically held. I mean, I was physically held, but the elation and the joy and the pride that I felt when I roared my 9'2" baby into the world after like 15 hours of my fat ass wandering around my house in labour, like a complete and utter badass. I was just like, I am fucking amazing. I need to be that person for other people. And I think that's exactly what I told Nicola Goodall from Red Tent Doulas when she asked me, why do you want to become a doula? And I said, because I want to be a fanny bouncer for people who like my birth, and that's what I want to do. And she emailed me back like within about 30 minutes and went, you're on the course. And I was like, yeah. And I think that's why I get a lot of my clients, not all, a lot of my clients are second-time parents that were in a similar situation to me, that they want something to be different, and they just want that person to stand next to them and be like, "You're okay, you're in control, you have the choice here." Da, da, da. And I think that's why I get a lot of those clients, because that is the path that I've trodden personally.
Yeah.
And I know it's possible.
And as much as, you know, these bookings pay our bills, right? Oh, let's be honest here, we're doulas. We need people to be having babies who want doulas. But it absolutely continually breaks my heart that it's, you know, when a second time parent books me and it's because they had such a horrific experience the first time around, that never gets easier for me.
No, it doesn't. But I think that from a professional standpoint, like from me being the doula, not the parent who's obviously going through those emotions, as a doula, part of me is a bit excited, because I know how much I was able to flip that on its head. And yes, I can't go back and erase how I felt and the trauma. You know, I'm really going to use that word because it is still trauma that I experienced with my first child. And it's okay to say that it was traumatic. It doesn't make you a bad parent or anything like that. It's okay to say that you were traumatized by it. It's not your fault. I get excited from the fact that I could be a small part of that process. That I can be the one that reminds them that this is your choice. You know, they're suggesting this, they are inviting you to do this, they are asking you if you would like to do this. It's really simple things that I can play that tiny part in somebody being able to flip that on their head. So it is, of course, it's heartbreaking. I would prefer never to have another client, because there are no more clients that experience this situation. But whilst there are clients that experience this, I am excited when they reach out, because I know how it feels deep down to reverse that story.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you so much for sharing that.
No worries.
And I mean, I do absolutely as well see the tide changing in terms of more first-time inquiries, more first-time parents, you know, inquiring and booking me, because I think that there's a real shift in the tide in terms of, you know, autonomy over your own body and understanding your rights, and it's exciting, and long may that continue.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I think the whole birth and baby world has changed so much, as everything does. And I mean, and I've only been in it 3 and a bit years, and I've seen it change so much already. So some of the people that I work with and are friends with and professional connections with, who've been in the industry for 10, 15 years, you know, it's such a huge shift. But I really think that people are further acknowledging the benefits of doulas, of having a doula. I mean, we have some amazing statistics to back it up, but also the more and more people have doulas, the more and more people will have doulas, because people will say, "Oh, I had a doula." "Oh, did you? What the hell is that?" You know, and I make sure to introduce myself as a doula everywhere that I go, not just from a business standpoint, so that the next time somebody hears that word, that a what, now they go, "Oh, I met someone who was a doula." A doula is normally what I get.
A dealer is what I get.
Well, that might be more circumstantial than anything else. Might be the accent, love.
Is it because I'm Scottish, right?
Well, that might be. Is it because I'm from Essex? But yeah, I don't know. When every time I ring up for insurance, and what do you do? I'm a doula. Doula? Yeah, that'd do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put nurse. I'm gonna put midwife. All right, whatever. Okay, that'd do.
Whatever. Yeah. No, absolutely. And well, if it's good enough for royalty now as well, then yeah.
Oh yeah, I definitely think that helps a lot.
Yeah.
And things like, it's mentioned on TV so much as well. Like one of the clips that I always have on my Instagram is on Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah.
The vaginal Gandalf, indeed. Yeah. So I think a lot more people have definitely heard of it than you know, time gone by. But there's still a lot of work to do, and it's exciting time to be in the business, I think.
100%. And in terms of work to do, like, let's just get really honest here, right? And this is going to potentially make some listeners uncomfortable, especially if they're already in the birth world at the moment. I'm not going to shy away from it. There is a shitload of work to do in terms of inclusivity and education, which I mean, you know, we're not going to shy away from that, because hopefully we are part of the change. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
what we have in the birth world at the moment is quite stark contrast. Do you know what I mean? It's still, you know, you go online and you search for a doula in your local area. 99.9% of them are going to be a certain type of person who are usually lovely people. But I know when I was searching for a doula local to me, just no one felt like my crew. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's really important, because I think that's what I found when I was looking for doula courses. Obviously, all the you know, the stuff online says find a course that resonates with you, and that's why I was drawn to Red Tent Doulas. Not so much the sort of holistic side of it, although I am interested in that. I'm very much one of these holistic people that thinks, sure, let's have a lemon and ginger and rub some onion and vapor rub and all of that sort of thing, but also if you're sick, let's get the antibiotics. Do you know what I mean? I kind of come down quite in the middle of that.
Yeah.
But it was more the diversity of Red Tent Doulas, the fact that it wasn't just a particular kind of person. And when I spoke to like Nicola on the phone, you know, she's South London, there was none of this pretentiousness. I think people have this idea of a doula in their head, which is a skinny, white, middle-aged woman with big floaty skirts and toe rings and stuff. And that's fine. And like you say, they're lovely people, and, you know, and that's not a bad thing, because there are people like that need doulas. But we also need big, brash Essex doulas. We also need hard as nails Glaswegian and Edinburgh doulas. We need the representation from the community of people that are giving birth. Good birth and consented and informed birth is for everybody, whether that's a cesarean, a home birth, wherever that might be. So we need doulas that look like the people that they're supporting. We need doulas that sound like the people that they're supporting. So there needs to be more infiltration from the underrepresented communities, because there's people out there that need them. We say all the time, doulas are for everyone, doulas reduce all these rates and everything like that. But if you're an LGBT person and you can't find any representation in the doula world, or if you're Black or Asian minority ethnic or Indigenous or traveller, Gypsy, any of those underrepresented communities, where are your people? Where are they that are going to keep you safe? So I think you're absolutely right. There needs to be more different doulas. And they are coming. Not everyone's like a little carbon copy of each other. I'm not trying to say that, but where's the variety?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why this is so exciting, this chat, because what I now want to talk about is the work that you're doing in terms of, well, queer birth. Do you know what I mean? Like the changes and the shifts and the waves that you've made over the course of this year have just been so exciting to watch. Can you just talk me through your journey so far this year in terms of queer birth?
So I did Abuela Doulas back in February, so, you know, 10 months or so ago. And then I did your mentoring course as well. So a nice little plug for you there. And it really helped me zero in on, what am I doing? What is my USP? Who am I? Who am I looking to help? And it doesn't mean that I won't support the cis heteronormative parents that come along. Of course I do. Do you know what I mean? They're my main bank of client, to be honest, because LGBT people, although sparse on the ground, still are deserving of inclusion. So it helped me realise, whilst I was learning from Mars on the subject of Black, Asian, minority ethnic inclusion, that actually there's a similar, not more important, definitely not more important, it's not trauma top trumps or oppression top trumps, but there is still a need for the inclusion and representation of LGBT persons. We know that more and more LGBT people are registering babies every year, something like 15 to 20% year-on-year increase. So that's year-on-year, so that's compounded 20% from the next year to the next year of lesbians registering babies. So, and we know there's more LGBT people coming out, more people than ever identify as bisexual and as lesbian and gay and pansexual and non-binary and trans and genderqueer, as the whole spectrum. More and more people are coming out. So there's going to be more and more LGBT parents. There's going to be more LGBT everywhere in life. there's going to be more people, there's more people adopting, there's more people fostering than ever before from the LGBT community.
Yeah.
So where is the LGBT in birth? Where is it? I can't find anyone in the birthing world that was doing this. Luckily, there's some of us now. We've created this community, but there's people doing studies at universities, and there's there's great resources across the country, but there was no one in the doula world really pushing for this inclusion. And luckily, by being a bit of a gobshite and being like, I think within the first couple of days of me joining the UK's biggest doula collective, I posted on the Facebook wall. That could be anyone, Jen, don't laugh. And I didn't say any names. I posted going, is there an LGBT doulas page? Because there was like one for home educating doulas, there was one for Black, Asian, minority ethnic doulas, there was a different subgroups. And within 30 minutes, I was told, even if you're straight, you can support gay people, or and all of this. So I was like, right, that's that settled then.
Yeah.
I'm creating a Facebook group, and it was really needed.
I have my answer.
It was so needed. Yeah.
And do you know what? It's something I've just thought of. Do you think that the rise in LGBT parents, do you know what I mean? Do you think that this goes kind of hand in hand with legalizing marriage and all this sort of thing? Do you think it's coming as a part of that? Do you think people feel that their families now, because they are legitimate and legal, that makes this easier for them?
I think maybe. I think that we know that the roots to, say, for example, a lesbian family who want to use a sperm donor to have a baby, we know that the roots, legally speaking, for them are easier if they're married. So what I mean by that is, if you are a same-sex couple, woman couple that wants to use a sperm donor, if you're not married, then when the baby's born, the non-gestational or the non-bio parent has to then adopt the baby.
Right. Yep.
If you're married, you're automatically both on
legal parent.
The birth certificate.
Yeah.
So it's interesting in terms of its legality, as you say, and we have obviously similar issues and barriers for two men that want to adopt a baby or to find a surrogate or an egg donor and things like that.
Yeah.
So there's certainly a shift in changing legalities. And we have a shift that's at the moment where a trans man in the UK was asking to be recorded as the father rather than the mother on the birth certificate. At the moment, the law is that whoever births the baby is the mother. So that goes for surrogates, that goes for egg donors, everything like that.
Yep.
So that at the first hearing, that was denied. That father has been recorded as the mother. So we do still have obviously areas where there is inequality, because if two straight people have a baby, they don't have to then adopt their baby because they're not married.
Yep.
If that's not the very definition of discrimination, I can't think of a clearer example. So I agree. We in the recent years, we have won some landmark cases, equal marriage in Ireland. In the next few months, they're going to be getting married in Ireland, and that's huge. And adoption in Ireland and all those other issues. So it's just parts of the UK that you could be in within an hour that have only just changed their attitudes, their laws. So it's all well and good saying, oh, you've got equal marriage and everything, but it's the attitudes within the system. We've changed the legal system, but the birth system, the NHS, everything like that is still going to be miles behind. Yeah. So we need to haul ass and try and get ahead of it before we're leaving vulnerable people. LGBT people are more at risk of cancers and of suicide and of abuse and of certain diseases, and it's incredible when you look at the statistics. So this is a vulnerable pocket of people who need our support, who need our doulas, who need our breast chest feeding counsellors, who need access to these services. So we need to get on the right side of history and make sure that we're going to be there when they need us, because it's going to be a lot more prevalent in the years to come than it is now.
So my suspicion is that we're going to have people listening at the moment who are going, yeah, I mean, I would work with an LGBT couple. I would work with a gay couple. I would work with, you know, trans couple. They're saying that. What would you say to them? Because I, you know, this time last year, I would have said the same and had absolutely no idea what I was talking about. No idea of the gaps in my knowledge. Do you know what I mean? Not even confident in using your, they, them pronouns. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I know that you always say it, your pronouns are not the be all and end all. You're going to fuck it up. You're going to make mistakes. I know. But what would you say to someone who, with all the will in the world, is like, I'm totally safe. I can work with LGBT couples. What do you say to them?
Good for you. Here's a cookie. I don't know. You know, like it's one thing saying you can do it, and being aware of your own systemic biases and being aware of your own assumptions that you make around LGBT people is another thing entirely. I'm not homophobic. I can work with the queers. Great, but are you competent in the way that the system is set up that it puts queer people in danger? We have stories from America of a trans man who went into the ER saying, I'm pregnant, I'm having pains. His baby died because they couldn't believe that this 6-foot bearded bloke in front of them was telling them the truth. We had couples in the UK where they're arguing on intercoms. I'm in labour, I need to come in to the labour ward. You can't come in till mum arrives. We've got lesbians bloodied and beaten on London buses because they wouldn't kiss for the enjoyment of those little scallywags. It's a bigger thing than you realise. Your love is appreciated and we love you, we need allies, but you need to unpick. Being LGBT competent isn't memorizing pronouns. That's a good one. Or isn't remembering to say wife instead of husband, or is remembering to say donor instead of father. It isn't those things. It's deeper than that. You have to do the work. You have to unpick your biases. You have to understand how this system is going to try, or is going to, unfortunately, derail and put these people at more risk. Yeah. A trans man who's trying to get tests done, maternal blood tests, it was done over 10 times. It was done as the paternal test. And so they had to, the doula who, and these case studies are in my book, some of the ones that I'm reeling off here.
Yeah.
The doula then had to encourage and help the parents do a subject to information access request to find out why this test was coming back negative, because they knew there was a risk in the family history, and they knew from their previous pregnancy that they had this condition.
Yeah.
And so that's delaying medical assistance to people who need it.
Yep.
And so the argument that I will make is, you call yourself an ally, fantastic. That's more than going to Pride and buying some rainbow clad shit.
Yeah.
Allyship is active, not passive.
Yeah.
You can't say you're an ally and it makes it so. You have to do the work, unpick, hire LGBT people to come and do these talks like you have, and pay them. That's another thing. I won't get up on that bloody high horse at the moment, but buy the books, they're out there. See the films, they're out there. There are films on Amazon Prime and BBC iPlayer about trans men who birth their babies. Go and watch them. Mm-hmm. It's not something you can just say you are and it happens.
What I'll do as well is make sure that links that AJ is discussing are, any links to books and movies, videos, etc. are all in the description as well. So to make it as easy as possible for those people who are willing and wanting to do the work. And this is the thing, AJ. I thought, naively, I'll have a bit of a chat with AJ, or I'll do a course with AJ, and then that'll be me. Big tick box, cookie for me. You know what I mean? Like, and it's ongoing and it's never ending. And
no,
God, we've seen, we know
that from personal experience.
We've had like
The-
2-3 weeks of absolute mayhem in birth. We will not get into it. But I, as a cis white woman, my mind is consistently blown with the bullshit that underrepresented and minority groups have to put up with in birth. And I'm just seeing it from a birth worker's perspective. Do you know what I mean? I'm not even talking about the poor pregnant people out there who are having to navigate the system, and it's really quite frightening. It's really, really quite frightening. So you talk about unpicking, you talk about doing the work. What does that look like? What are you going to recommend to people? Because we're waiting on your book. Right, like,
yeah, it's
so
coming.
excited.
All right, it's coming. It's in its final stages, and I've got some incredible interviews and contributors. We've got trans midwives, we've got trans dads, we've got non-binary midwives and healthcare professionals. We've got lesbian doctors of research at King's College University. We've got run-of-the-mill everyday people that live in this system around the world, from a vast representation of race, ethnicities, origins, religions, to show that this isn't just an issue that affects gay white men, is normally the market that people imagine when they're talking about gay rights and gay issues, because obviously that's at the forefront of people's minds. But obviously this descends further to that. So I'd say we're about 80% done with the book. I've got a lot more that I just need to type up, and it's not going to be War and Peace. It's not a huge great big, but it's also not a pamphlet. I'm trying to strike a good balance between information overload and enough information to get people's motor running. What you were saying is, it's not the end. You can't do a one-day inclusion and diversity course, tick your box, walk away, I'm so good, give me my cookie. This is something that's always growing. And so when the publisher said to me, you need to some kind of conclusion or something like that on the end of this book, the only conclusion I could think of to write is, gutted. There's no conclusion to this.
Psych, it's not over.
Hopefully everything that I've written in a few years will be wrong. And I mean that by saying, people were saying, LGBTQIA, the alphabet soup, how am I supposed to keep up? Good. I'm glad it's changing so fast that people can't keep up, because that represents the Q being added is queer, or questioning, which shows that the LGBT community is growing to accept people who know that they're not cis or straight, but they don't know where they fit yet. The I being added to represent intersex people, and it's great, fantastic. And people moan about pie and ban buy and pan are like the same thing, aren't they? No, but the difference is important to some people, so just shut your mouth and respect it. So it's always going to change, and I'm glad it is, because it means that more people are finding themselves and finding community. So don't moan that it changes. If 1 week it's okay to say something and the next week it's not, okay, sorry about that, go away and find out about it. It's going to keep changing. So I think that's the only conclusion I can put on this book, because it's not like a maths textbook where you learn about Pythagoras. You've learned that, now move on to the next task. It's organic, it's growing, it's changing. You've got to keep on your toes.
And that's scary. That's frightening for people, and I get that, because do you know what it is? The overwhelming majority of people that I speak to, let's talk about you. Do you know what I mean? I talk about you all the time. AJ's non-binary, their pronouns are they, them, and it fucking blows people's minds. You've got to remember, I come from a little mining village in the centre of Scotland, so people are just I don't get it, and I'm like, well, the way I was raised was that my mum's absolute go-to was, it's nice to be nice, and if they're not hurting anybody. So what I try to say is, why do you care so much? Why so angry about it? Do you know what I mean? But what I was going to say is that people's main concern is they do not want to mess up, so they just don't get involved at all. They just don't talk
Yeah,
about
and I think
it.
that certainly comes from a place of privilege, that you can afford not to get involved in it, because the cis and the non-cis and non-hetero people that are in this system can't afford not to get into it,
Yeah.
because their babies and them are dying or being denied access to healthcare or even to services for to help them conceive their babies. So those people don't have an option not to get involved. So the definition of privilege, it's not a problem for me, so it's not a problem. So when you say things like, oh, I can't be doing all of that, I'll just stick up one picture in every sort of 100 that's got some queer people in it somewhere, or I'll stick a rainbow on the end of my logo for during Pride Month.
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing anything to help. You're not actually actively helping in this problem that we have.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so when people are scared, the first thing I say to them is, you are going to fuck this up.
Yeah.
You're going to get it wrong. You're going to forget what the abbreviations are. That's why my book starts with an index, because I appreciate that it's very hard for people who want to try, but they don't even know where to start, and they don't even know who to ask. Who can I ask about this? Am I going to get my head bitten off if I ask about this? Am I going to get called out as, a homophobe or a transphobe? So this is why these resources exist. They already exist on the internet. Mine's not going to be any better or any worse than anyone else's that you can find, but it is going to be written specifically for people in the birth and baby world, be that professionals or be that parents. So that does give it a little edge. But it's important that if you're thinking, I don't want to get it wrong, then you need to find a way to ask these questions. So whether that's going into your local LGBT community and saying, I've got some questions, I'd love to volunteer or pay for someone to do this service, or you want to find another queer birth worker. There's quite a few of us now that will do this work, but you're going to have to pay us. You're going to have to pay us for our time and our emotional labor. We won't do this stuff for free. Me and Jen are good friends. She still paid me to come and do this because my time and emotional labor is valuable.
Yep.
So there are people other than me. If you're thinking, I don't like the cut of their jib, they're annoying me, then come on my website and go on the Queer Birth Club website, where there will soon be a directory of LGBT birth workers in the UK, and you can pay and you can watch these films for nothing. You can get a 30-day free trial of Amazon Prime and watch the Deal with the Universe, or you can go on BBC iPlayer and watch The Seahorse Dad, and you can make a start.
And believe me, it is noticed when you do nothing in comparison to when you try very slowly and you just take it at your own pace and you do what you're comfortable with, but you're still making little changes. Do you know what I mean? But believe me, if you're out there and your website is completely covered in the skinny, the white, the cis, heteronormative couples, and it's all women everywhere, we're not expecting you to change every single one of these, but little efforts are so noticed, and they will absolutely be noticed by the pregnant people out there who so want to feel safe in your care. And
that's the other thing, the resistance that we get is that you want to erase woman. We have to go through our website and take out any mention of woman or mother or anything like that. It's not what we're saying at all. As I said earlier, the overwhelming majority of my client base is cis heteronormative people. I have and I am supporting trans and non-binary people, but it doesn't mean that we don't exist. It doesn't mean that we aren't out there. So if you're saying, oh well, in my town there isn't any LGBT groups or anything like that, there fucking are.
You're really not looking very hard.
No. And if you're saying that I don't want to get it wrong, so I'm not going to make a start, then why don't you take 10 minutes, go on Instagram now, type in hashtags like queer parents, LGBT birth, queer birth, trans birth, non-binary birth. Have a look at those hashtags. Read what the other people in the industry are saying and doing. You don't have to go through your website and take out any mention of the word woman or mother, because they are the overwhelming majority of people who do birth the babies, who are pregnant women. And we have to accept that, and we have to honour that. We don't want to erase anyone. We simply want, at the very least, a footnote to say queer parents, trans women, birthing people. Yes. So when we look at, for example, like the Equality Act of 2010 says like it's illegal to ask a woman to stop, move, cover, stop breastfeeding their baby.
Yeah.
Scotland changed it. They changed it to any person who's in charge of a child can't be asked, like, can't be removed for giving them milk. And so in my mind, and my trying to be pragmatic about it, that actually included more people.
Yeah.
Because that includes adoptive parents, that includes husbands and men, or partners and men and fathers, to give their child milk. That also includes people who are tube feeding, who are using an SNS, who are finger feeding, anything like that. It's including more people under that protection.
Yep.
So that's normally my go-to example, where language doesn't have to erase, it can just be altered slightly to be more inclusive. So don't worry too much about having to completely rewrite everything you've ever written. A lot can be achieved, and it will mean a lot to so many people if you add to your language rather than remove. That's what I think needs to happen. I don't want anyone to be thinking that we need to completely erase the overwhelming majority of people who birth. That's not what I want. That's not what anyone I've ever spoken to wants. We simply want acknowledgement that we exist as well.
And that the way I'm a very visual person, right? And the way I see it is just so think about it, whether it's your Instagram feed or your Facebook page or your website or just your birth world company home. The way I see it is that you are having an amazing house party. Like you've like the tunes are banging and like the food's great and everyone's having an absolutely brilliant time. And all you're doing is you're just opening the front door and just letting even more amazing people in. And just being like, let's all have a party together. You're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome, because you're a lovely, lovely person. And you're even nicer than the last person. And like, let's just have a great time. So, like those hashtags you were talking about, oh my God, you will have so much fun on those hashtags. You will have more fun looking through queer birth hashtags, LGBT birth than you've had in a long time. Like,
we are a riot, the queers. You know, that is quite world renowned. We are a good time group, but it's not like this big upheaval. It's going to take you 10 minutes. Does our community not mean enough to you to do that? This is, again, your silence is louder. We notice the big people in this industry who fall silent when we're under attack, the same way that we notice who is inclusive in their imagery of Black, Asian, minority, ethnic persons, the same way we notice people who are talking about classist issues, the same way we notice silence is violence, as the old saying goes. If you're not standing up and saying that's bullshit when someone's being a homophobe, a transphobe, a racist, or a xenophobe, you're agreeing with the message that the oppressor or the messenger is saying, because you're not objecting. So think about that.
And I always as well wonder, right? We have, birth workers, doulas specifically, right? Midwives as well to an extent, advocacy, standing up for what's right for the person that you are working with is 101. So we should be really skilled at calling out bullshit and saying, that's not right. That's wrong. I'm sorry, but what you just said there isn't acceptable. That's the hard part. That's the scary part done, is saying, I really disagree. And we do that all the time. Do you know what I
mean? The other thing to avoid doing is running to me or other LGBT birth workers and saying, look at this horseshit, because we've probably seen it. Yeah. We've probably seen it. We've probably been sent it 10 times before we woke up.
Yeah.
And what I want to see, if you want to send me something about that, I want to see a screenshot of you calling it out.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, what am I to lead to believe from that? When you're sharing, liking, giving traffic to people who are excluding people, you're agreeing with that message.
Yep.
You're saying, yes, that's a vote for you because I'm sharing it. I'm giving you more of a platform. So if
which
you
builds
want to
them up
be
higher, which makes their voice
exactly.
louder, which, you know, which just sucks.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much more to say about it, but I think that if you're going to do one thing off the back of today, whilst you're listening now, we won't be offended. Go onto Instagram, look up some of those hashtags, look at your last 5 posts. How many times have you mentioned BAME people? How many times have you mentioned LGBT people? How inclusive is your imagery? And it's not about trying to police what everybody posts. It's about, if you want to be an ally, if you've got no interest in it and you want to be exclusive, you crack on. We're not interested. You go for it. I've got more people. You can't
be in our gang. Yeah.
No, you can't sit with us.
Yeah.
And that's fine. If that's what you want to do, no one's going to come and tell you. The thought police aren't going to come and get you. It's fine. But if you want to be inclusive, as so many people keep telling me they want to be, and how can I word this, AJ? Can I say this? Do your own work. And you learn from it, from just looking at those hashtags and reading websites and watching films. You will learn. You're not going to get it all tomorrow. You're not going to be asked to be the leader of the Pride Parade, but you're going to be a better person. And purely just from a business point of view, you're going to reach more people.
Yep. And actually, many of the straight couples I work with, they appreciate it because they are of that same opinion as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They are on the way I see it is they're on the right side of history. Like, and they see it and they appreciate it and they like the posts and they share the posts and they're like, look how amazing my birth worker was. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's their midwife, their doctor, their doula, their baby wearing consultant, their hypnobirthing practitioner, their placenta encapsulation specialist, they will, even the straight people will appreciate it because they're smart. Do you know what I mean?
Smart. Yeah. No, I think you're right. It's what's the problem with expanding your net? That's the thing that I don't see it as drawing. You haven't got. I'm trying to think of an analogy off the top of my head. There's so many fish in the sea, and I'm not telling you to take up fishing lines. I'm going to show you how to put more out there if you truly want to catch those fish.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. But they have to pay you. You have to pay you, and But So
if you want to know more about that, or you want to talk to me, I do offer 1-to-1 where I can talk to you face to face, and you can get over any sort of guilt about asking me these questions because you're going to pay me, and you can go to the Queer Birth Club, or you can go to Birth Keeper Doula, and you can follow the links from there for education, speaking, podcasts, whatever you want to do.
And what is your Instagram handles as well?
At Birth Keeper Doula, I believe.
Yep.
And at Queer Birth Club. The Queer Birth Club was too long, so it had to be Queer Birth Club, but it is the Queer Birth Club.
It.
But if you Google search AJ Silver, Birth Keeper Doula, or even Birth Keeper Doula, I come up. I'm the first result on Google. So my SEOs are working.
Yay, mine's weren't, but we're getting there. Right, so AJ, I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for, as always, honesty and just a bit of realness. Do you know what I mean? It really, really means a lot to me that we're not tiptoeing around these big issues. I want us to be confronting them head on, and I want the pregnant people out there to know that we care.
It's not going to go away by not looking at it. It's not going to go away. Queer people aren't going to stop coming out, and queer people aren't going to stop having babies. The statistics show us that it's going to happen more. So either you want to face up to it and get on the right side of history, or you want to not support us, and either of those options are fine. But if you want to do it, you have to do the work. It's not going to come for free. It's not going to come easy. No one's going to shout at you when you get it wrong. We're going to shout at you if you continue to get it wrong, if you make no effort to change. But if you're asking genuine, sensitive questions at an appropriate moment, I'm not going to shout at you.
Absolutely.
I'm not that scary.
I I'm going to make sure, well, I'm going to ask every guest that I have on the show to answer 4 questions for me, right? And this, I'll explain it probably more over other episodes, but this goes back to my dad and I, well, when we were on holiday as a family, right? Story time, grab a tea. We were all on holiday. My dad was trying to sneak out of the apartment to go away to a pub, and I clocked him. And I'm like 9 or something. I'm like, Dad, please can I come with you? So we went to this pub at God knows what time in the middle of Alcudia, and I was drinking my non-alcoholic cocktails, thinking I was absolute bee's knees. And we came up with a game, right? And it's still my favourite game to play in the whole world, whether it's, you know, chatting to ridiculous people on Tinder or Christmas time. Or like me and the boys sitting around the dinner table. Anyway, it's the favourite game, and that's what it's called. And so I'm going to ask each of my guests to tell me their favourite movie, the favourite book, favourite dish, favourite memory, in any order you want. Not to put you on the spot, AJ, but talk me through it.
Okay, favourite movie, probably Goodfellas. I love the that genre, the gangster film and everything. Sopranos, like, is obviously a TV series, but that's probably my favorite TV series as well. So yeah, I think Goodfellas. It's got a bit of everything. Goodfellas, I love. It's an oldie but a goodie. My favorite book is I read a lot, so this changes with the weather. But my favorite book at the moment was Girl, Woman, Other, which was the joint Booker Prize winner this year. It was written by a Black queer person, which obviously is why it came into my my vision. Get it quick, run to Waterstone. And other bookshops are available. And I read it in like 2 days, and I'm dyslexic as well, so that's a big deal. And the other favorite book of mine at the moment is Unicorn, which is written by a Muslim drag queen, which is just, I read that is the first and only book in my life that I have sat down and not stood up again until I finished it, cover to cover, in like 4 and a bit hours.
And it is a glorious cover as well. I mean, like, if ever a cover summed up a book.
Yeah, it feels so nice in the hand as well. It's a hard cover, which I really like. I always buy hard covers, even though then they hurt my shoulder when I put them in my satchel and everything, and they're impractical. But
so
are
you a physical book person rather than a Kindle?
Yes, yeah. No, so many times people are like, "Oh, buy a Kindle for your birthday." I'm like, "Don't take the bookshop away from me," you know. And smelling the smell of books as well is a big one. Is a big one for me. What were the other questions? Because I've talked about books now, and I'm off on one. Dish.
See, we would all in Scotland. We would go, "What's your favourite dinner?" Like, if it was the end of the world tomorrow, what would you have for dinner? Like, that's the way we would always position it. But a lot of people call it your tea or your supper, or so. I just went with dish.
Yeah, no, we go with dinner. Down here, I reckon. God, that's a hard one. I don't know. Obviously, I'm fat, so kind of like all the food. And like your last dish, what would you have as your last meal?
Like that scene in the movie Signs where they all sit down and each of them have got a different thing to eat.
Oh, I don't know. Pizza is a good emulsifier of people, because you can have pizza as a snack, pizza as a lunch, pizza as a dinner. Breakfast. You can have, there's so much variety of it. Deep pan, thin crust. And it's like, who doesn't like pizza? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a great emulsifier of people. If you're meeting a load of people you don't really know that well, you go out for pizza. Why not?
What's your toppings?
Controversial. A lot of people aren't going to hire me on this basis, let alone the fact that I'm fat and queer, but I like anchovies.
Oh, no, yeah, absolutely. You would have seen my stories the other day then. That's my go-to.
Yeah, no, anchovies. So I normally get like a vegetable supreme, like olives and red onion and peppers, and then have anchovies.
Oh, you've put me in the mood for anchovies now. I just like to eat them right out the jar.
Do you? I don't quite do that, but sometimes I put them into like pasta sauces and stuff like that, because it adds a wee twang. Yeah. So anything like pasta sauce based, red sauce based, anchovies are a great emulsifier of flavors. But I'm really keen cook as well. I love cooking for my postnatal clients. A lot of the images on my Insta are food that I've made for people as well. I really enjoy cooking. At the moment, once my client found out that I'm of Northern Irish descent, they were like, "You need to make a stew." So then I've made like 5 stews for people. So yeah, Irish stews
Yum.
is another one.
Oh, so good. And then your last question is your favourite memory
In my professional work or just in my life?
in your life.
Christ, that's a big question, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Next time you should send this to people before you invite them on.
I like
because there's going to be a lot,
because that's where you get the real honesty. You would have had a chance to think it through too much.
There's a really stupid one that came to mind, and it's when we went to Somerset. Like, this is the first one that came into my head, and I don't know why, because it's not like one I think about often or anything like that. But we went to Somerset when Izzy was really little, and it was the first time I booked a holiday for all of us. And again, for information purposes, my dad lives with us and he is an amputee and a paraplegic. So it was the first time I booked a holiday as a family, and the first time I'd had to book one, like because my mum and dad got divorced. So my mum always booked the holiday. So I obviously lacked information on wheelchair accessible. Anyway, I ended up booking this house that was at the bottom of this hill, and you had to go right to the top of the hill to get to the car park. You couldn't park the car out front. So I was a really bad disabled ally because I never checked any of this information. And so we got there, obviously Izzy had gone to bed, Adam and I and Dad had opened some drinks, and then Dad said, I need to go back up to the car to get the charger for my electric scooter. He has a hand propelled chair and an electric scooter. Yeah. So anyway, he said, the scooter's in the hallway, I'm going to go up on that. And I was like, don't be silly, I'll go up. And then I was like, Dad, you come up with me, Izzy's asleep, she'll be okay with Dad. And we basically just ran up this hill, one on the mobility scooter, falling around laughing, just trying to get up this hill. And I don't know why that came into my head, but you know those times where you laugh so much that it hurts?
Yeah.
And that's one of them. Just so simple, just me and Adam trying to get up the top of this hill in the pissing rain in Somerset, trying not to keel over laughing.
I love it.
Yeah,
that one came to mind. Me and the boys call those my tenor lady moments.
Yes.
But other incontinence pads are available.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a tenor moment. Like, it was
where you're
one of those ones where you
physically hold on to your
when you like doubled over laughing. That's one of them as well. And obviously the usual ones, the birth of Emma particularly. It doesn't mean that I don't love my eldest Isabel. Of course I do. She's the funniest kid. She's known in my family as the world's youngest stand-up comedian. She'll make you laugh. And she's got such a brilliant mind. But Emma's birth, I remember that feeling of when I got in the pool, because I've been standing up all day, I've been pacing around, I couldn't sit down, I couldn't stand up, I couldn't do anything. And then finally the pool was ready and I got in, and it's cheesy, but it felt like the whole world stood still. My contractions stopped, everything was quiet, there was no car alarms, there was no siren, whether there was and I just didn't hear them, I don't know. But I remember my big fat sweaty face against that sticky hot birth pool, thinking this is the best sensation that anyone has ever experienced in their entire life.
Yep.
And that's again why I say to people, what about water? Because I remember how incredible it was.
Yeah, it's something I never experienced. And I see it now in the faces of people as they get into their birth pools, and it's the smell as well, that amazing birth pool, warm water, steam smell when you go into someone's home. And it's just, for me...
Well, yeah, it's that amniotic fluid smell as well.
I mean, it's just absolute... Obviously, I associate it with the very best memories now. Do you know what I mean? Beautiful people becoming wonderful parents. And yeah, it never gets old, I can imagine.
No, birth pools are definitely like water births. Something that I'll suggest to people all the time, because people have this misconception that they're really messy or they're loads of work, or you can't have them here or there or wherever. And I remember it being such a relief to me that obviously if people don't want it, I'm not going to get in the pool. Do you know what I mean?
Throw them in.
If people are umming and ahhing, then I'd be like, I love water.
And you know what? It's my favourite job. after someone's had their baby and they're all cozy and they've been checked over, placenta's out, and the baby's just, nuzzling into them or nursing, and I just get myself busy emptying the pool and putting the pool away. It's such such a sense of like accomplishment to see that room nice and empty again. And
I always say to them, look, it's like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't know that a baby had been born. And I remember walking out of my first birth and being like, wanting to stop people in the street and be like, do you know what just happened? Like, life happened. Like, oh my God, they were amazing. The mother was so powerful and vulnerable, and oh my God. And people are just like getting on with their lives. And
I know.
Such a privileged feeling.
It is, and it never ever gets old. It never ever does. No. Although, catching up on sleep is no effing joke.
No, because you were at birth yesterday, right?
Yeah. But you might be able to tell by my voice, I am a beaten woman today, but I will be having a cava tonight, as it's a tradition to celebrate. Yeah, it's amazing. AJ, thank you so much. I do not know how long we've talked for. I don't care. I think it's going to be an absolutely bitching episode. To anyone who is listening, I will most likely have done an intro at the start, but I'm not going to do an outro. I'm just going to say goodbye here. Please, we are now on iTunes, by the way.
Woo!
Please leave a review and a rating of the podcast if you rate it. If you don't, just close it down and don't come back. We won't mind.
You can't sit with us.
Yeah. If you want to come on and talk about something you're passionate about, even if it's your own pregnancy, your own birth story, if you've got something badass that you want to share, you are so welcome here. Please come into my home. I have snacks and drinks and it's all good. And we've got some Dizzy Rascal playing, it's all good. You're welcome. And if you can think of anyone that you think would be great for the show, by all means, just let me know. Just get in touch. So badass_birth is the Instagram, is the best place to get me, and I will pop all the relevant links that AJ and I have discussed today below. And thank you so much for listening. This is just filling me up with so much blimmin' joy, so thank you, and goodbye from us.